Well, good morning and welcome. I'm Kathy Magruder. I'm the Executive Director of the Maryland Clean Energy Center, and I am so excited to be at this event this morning. I want to recognize the Chairman of the Board of Maryland Clean Energy Center, Mike Gill Jr., and a member of our board who's here in the audience, Dr. Eric Waxman, who runs the University of Maryland Energy Research Center and the Maryland Energy Innovation Institute. Thank you guys for your support. On their behalf, and as the lead applicant among the members of the Maryland Equitable Charging Infrastructure Partnership, we want to express our sincere gratitude to the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration for the Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Grant Funding Award that we are announcing this morning. Oh, I also see Andrea Pelletier, my board member. Thank you, Andrea. I want to extend a warm welcome to Deputy Secretary Polly Trottenberg with the U.S. Department of Transportation and Gabe Klein, the Executive Director of the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation, who are here this morning with us. I particularly want to thank President Jenkins from Coppin University and his amazing team here who put this event together at the last minute. We're so grateful. In order for Maryland to achieve our aggressive vision of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, creating jobs, and building a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable transportation system, leadership, investment, and community involvement will all be necessary. Fortunately, Maryland leaders are well charged to achieve the vision. I'd like to welcome this morning Senators Cardin and Van Hollen, and also recognize Ray Conway, who is here from Congressman Mfume's office. Thank you, Ray. Our Governor, Wes Moore, Mayor Brandon Scott from Baltimore, and Department Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Wiedefield is here this morning. They have all joined us, and we recognize their leadership. This initiative is also fortunate to have the investment and technical expertise of industry partners in gear to move charging infrastructure installation forward faster, including BGE represented by President and CEO Karim Kuzami and his entire team from BGE. Could you just raise your hands? Thank you all for coming. Francis Energy CEO David Jankowski is here from Oklahoma. We will excuse him for being a Sooners fan. Mike Dennehy at Shell Volta, Andy Cabrera and Marnie Abramson from Lightility, all who brought 20% match to this grant. Workforce development capabilities are also plugged into this initiative. Through partnership with Dr. Masika Jordan's Bowie, Maryland-based minority woman-owned firm Apex Adams, and labor union training sponsored by the IBEW Joint Apprenticeship Training Center. And because local government representatives and community organization partners like Edwin Luvianos at Citizen Energy and Avanza EV, a bilingual EV education program, are connected, we are destined to succeed. MCEC looks forward to achieving the outcomes desired for this funding. So this morning, it is my honor to welcome the first of our scheduled speakers, Gabe Klein. Gabe is Executive Director of the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation. He oversees efforts to align resources and expertise across the U.S. Department of Energy and the U.S. Department of Transportation. Welcome, Gabe.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm a little shorter than you. Pull this down. Good morning, everybody. It is so great to be here. This is the second time in the last maybe 3 months I've been in Baltimore for an announcement like this. I'm super excited about this moment with EVs, and I know that people are probably reading different headlines like, are EVs exploding? Are they leveling off? Are we selling fewer? So we got the numbers last week, and we sold a record 1.4 million EVs last year. That's 50% more than 2022 in 1 year. You can clap, it's fine. You can clap. So that means EV sales have more than quadrupled since President Biden took office. We have about 4.7 million EVs on the road. And it's not just about selling EVs. There's also $1 billion that went out Monday from EPA for school buses. There's thousands of school buses. FTA has put out billions of dollars for transit buses. So whether you drive or ride electric, and that's our theme at the Joint Office, we're here to support you. And that also includes e-bikes, micromobility, medium and heavy duty trucking, which disproportionately can impact low-income communities with emissions and so forth. And also, all of these numbers I'm talking about, that's not including the fact that as of January 1st, the $7,500 tax credit that's available will be point of sale for many people at many dealers. So why am I here? Why are we here as a Joint Office? So we work, as Kathy said, with the Department of Energy and DOT. In fact, we're an amalgam of both to make sure that we're building a national charging system and network. We're also here to make sure that there's good paying jobs as well, right? And we're creating generational wealth opportunities. And as I was reading about this project, I was so impressed actually with the number of different parties involved, public, private, NGO, and all the people being served, and the fact that people can actually have ownership in the network, in the community, which is just amazing and awesome. So back to charging, which is like our core focus. I was at the first NEVI station opening last month in Ohio. It was super exciting with Governor DeWine. But we've added, even without the NEVI stations, we've added 10,000 fast chargers in the last year. So remember that the bipartisan infrastructure law, which created us, by the way, yes, it's making huge investments in the charging network, but it's also sending signals to the private market to make those investments. So we've added a quarter of the fast chargers in this country in the last year. That's pretty amazing. So the other great thing about this project, I think, is that it's building in urban, suburban, and rural, all in one project, which is pretty amazing. So I'm not going to talk too much longer because I think I'm supposed to talk for 4 minutes. I'm going to let you hear from the real star of the show, one of my bosses, a good friend, and a transportation superhero, Deputy Secretary Polly Trottenberg. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I am shorter still, even than Gabe Klein. Although actually this is a little bit in my face now. Good morning. It is great to be here. Thanks, Gabe, for that kind introduction. And thank you, I think, for your really visionary leadership of the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation, the first of its kind. And I have to say, bringing together the best of both departments as we decarbonize our nation's transportation sector and together tackle climate change. Well, I am excited to be here in Maryland today on behalf of the Biden-Harris administration, Secretary Buttigieg, and I have to say it is an exceptionally distinguished lineup of state and local leaders and project partners, obviously Governor Wes Moore, Senators Cardin and Van Hollen, Mayor Scott of Baltimore, DOT Secretary Wiedefeld, and a whole bunch of officials here. And Kathy, thank you so much for hosting us today. I am thrilled to share that the Biden administration has announced a total this week of $623 million in charging and infrastructure grant program awards to 47 projects in 22 states and Puerto Rico, including right here in Maryland, $15 million to the Maryland Clean Energy Center to fund 58 charging centers across the state, as Gabe was saying, in all different parts of the state, including right here at Coppin State University. Coppin State, congratulations. And the CFI program is just one of the new programs that was created in the president's bipartisan infrastructure law to help accelerate EV charging nationwide. And of course, whenever I talk about the bipartisan infrastructure law, I always like to thank our colleagues and leaders on Capitol Hill who helped pass that landmark legislation. The CFI program is going to provide $2.5 billion over 5 years to build EV charging infrastructure where we live, where we work, where we go to school, where we worship, where we play. And that first round of CFI charging dollars, I think as Gabe mentioned, it's going to build more than 7,500 charging ports all around the country. And the majority of those, over 70%, are going to be in disadvantaged communities. So we're making sure as we build out this infrastructure that equity is at the forefront. This is going to help make that transition to an electrified, carbon-free transportation sector more equitable, and accessible to all Americans. And as Gabe mentioned, and it's going to create good paying union jobs and contracting opportunities here in Maryland and all across the country. We should clap for that one too, I think. And it builds upon the other big program that we're operating together, the $5 billion National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, NEVI as we call it, which is building out an interconnected national highway network of EV chargers all across the country, investing $62 million here in Maryland on that. And as Gabe mentioned, in December, we started cutting ribbons on some. There's a little doubting, but it's starting to happen. We cut ribbons on new NEVI stations in Ohio and New York, and I think following not far behind, Pennsylvania, Maine, Vermont, Kentucky, Utah, Colorado, and Alaska. So it's happening. This year is going to be, I think, a banner year. As Gabe mentioned, those exciting statistics. During the Biden administration, EV sales have quadrupled. I'm going to say my household is one of those. We are now the proud owners of a Chevy Bolt, and it's a terrific car. We have not been to a gas station in months. And Gabe is updating me on this number. I think as of right now, we are at almost 170,000 publicly available EV chargers, and that number is going to grow this year. And we're seeing nearly $30 billion in U.S. investment already in EV charging underway, with at least 26 firms now manufacturing EV products within the U.S. And we are set, the president, he made a commitment during his campaign and when he came into office that we would get at least 500,000 chargers nationally by 2030. We're going to be there by 2026. We're going to beat his pledge by 4 years, and we're going to help. All right, I'll clap for that one. And there were moments early on when we were, wanting to make sure we could get there. And thanks to Gabe and so many partners all around the country, we're going to get there ahead of schedule. So before I finish, I do want to give a special thank to our host today, Coppin State University. The Biden-Harris administration, Secretary Buttigieg, and I all know the critical role that historically Black colleges and universities play in serving the communities that need them most. And just something we're very proud of. Through the bipartisan infrastructure law, DOT has really been strengthening our partnership and engagement with HBCUs, minority-serving institutions, and tribal colleges and universities. We've been doing internships and job placements for students and graduates. And our University Transportation Center program, we now have nearby Morgan State and Howard as partners, and we're hoping we'll get more HBCUs into the fold. So it is now my chance and opportunity to introduce a great leader from the great state of Maryland, which was my former home for 10 years. I want to just take a minute to brag on what the Biden-Harris administration has been doing in this great state. Just a few of the key projects. A couple of important Northeast Corridor projects, $4.7 billion for the upcoming Frederick Douglass Tunnel, $2 billion to replace the Susquehanna River Bridge, $108 million for Baltimore Penn Station, $22 million for a project that I know is near and dear to the mayor's heart, the East-West Priority Corridor in Baltimore. Again, projects all over the state. It is thrilling to be partners with the state of Maryland. And now I have the honor of introducing your governor, Governor Wes Moore.
Morning, Baltimore. How y'all doing? Good morning. Good morning, Maryland. I said to everybody, too. But we happen to be here in my hometown. Deputy Secretary Chartenberg, it is great to see you, and thank you so much. I can't tell you enough that leadership matters in this work. And it's not just about setting bold goals. It's actually putting together a plan to be able to accomplish them, and that's exactly what you and the Secretary and the Biden-Harris administration have done consistently. We thank you because you show every single day that you see Maryland and you see Baltimore and you see us as partners in this work. So we're grateful for today and grateful for everything you continue to do. It's great to be here at my alma mater, Coppin State University. President Jenkins, it's good to see you, sir. Good to see you. And Mr. Mayor, or as I now call him, Charms Daddy. It's great to see you, man. And congratulations on everything. We're really grateful because every single day we have the opportunity to be blessed by the fact that we have the best federal delegation in America. In fact, I think probably about an hour ago, we were just across town announcing a $80 million multimodal project that's going to support the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel Enhancement Project. And now we're back again with another spectacular announcement that's going to benefit the people of this state. To see that, this is just happening repeatedly because we have the most exceptional leaders who are representing the people of this state every single day and who are fighting on our behalf, or as DJ Khaled says, another one. And so just Senator Cardin and also Senator Van Hollen, bless you both and thank you so much. And, and we believe deeply, as I was saying earlier, that this state deserves a world-class transportation system. And in order for that to happen, we have to have a world-class transportation secretary. And that's exactly what we have in Paul Wiedefeld. Paul, it is a joy to be your colleague and to work with you every single day on these issues. And the beauty of this announcement and all the big signs and everything else is that this is showing a measure of unity. That the way we get things done is we get them done together. And that's how we know that this is going to be Maryland's decade, it's going to be Maryland's time, because we are going to have a unified front in the way that we advance progress. And in that progress and the unified vision that we have is that we all are unified in the idea that we have to have not just a vision, but a plan push forward to deal with the issue of climate action. Period and full stop. We see in Maryland, we see a future that is greener, that's cleaner, that's more sustainable, that's more prosperous, and it's a future that sees everybody and not just some of the people of the state. Because you know who gets hurt most by the climate crisis? It's oftentimes the people who are being hurt in the whole series of crises that we deal with. The same communities that continue to be left behind. Now, I say proudly that I think I'm governor of the most beautiful state in this country. And I mean, listen, no matter what you're looking for, the state of Maryland has it, and we have the most beautiful thing for the thing that you're looking for. Here. But we're proud of the fact that, that I am chief executive of a state that is 70% of our state is either water-lined or waterlocked. So our waterways and protection of our waterways is crucial when we're talking about the future of the state of Maryland. But we also know that while that is a gift, it's also a cautionary tale because we see the impact that big storms can have. We see the impact of what happened just a few days ago, where truthfully, if anyone needs any reminders about the impacts of climate change, had 2 days ago, had it been 10 years ago or 10 degrees colder, that would have been a massive, massive blizzard that we'd have been dealing with. And we still know the implications of it because you have to be able to invest in resilient infrastructure to be able to deal with the kind of weather conditions that we continue to have. And so when there's a big storm, it can take weeks for our low-lying and oftentimes our low-income communities to be able to recover from that. It should not be lost on anybody that while I'm the chief executive of the most beautiful state inside this country, Maryland also, unfortunately, has some of the most dire heat islands in the entire country. The fact that we are sitting right now in a city that is the 7th hottest heat island inside of the United States of America, and that we are still having to deal with situations that we have children who their school schedule is based on temperatures. We've got to do better. We've got to invest more. And we've got to work together to be able to address the challenges that we continually see. And that's why in the state of Maryland, I have been very clear that we are going to achieve 100% clean energy by 2035 and net zero emissions by 2045. And we are going to turn this state from a net importer of clean energy to a net exporter of clean energy, while at the same time building out your environmental prospects and your economic prospects at the same time. And we're not going to choose, we're going to do both. But here's the thing. As we are getting closer to our goals, we've got to make sure that we're bringing everybody along for the ride. We need to make sure that our success is being cheered on by everybody and not just some. It is not enough to ask people to see themselves in the consequences of climate change. They need to see themselves in the promise of climate action. And at the heart of that philosophy, at the heart of that movement is a historic investment that we are here to celebrate and we're here to say thank you for. The proposed sites for these 58 EV charging stations include locations in disadvantaged communities, intentionally and thoughtfully. And our proposal will also help underrepresented groups enter the electric vehicle space and produce 600 certified electricians in partnership with our friends at IBEW. And I want to applaud the extraordinary leadership of Kathy Magruder and her team at the Maryland Clean Energy Center and her work on leading the charge on this initiative. We could not have gotten here without you. Bless you and thank you so much. So here's the thing about our administration. We're now 11 months in, coming on 12. I think people have seen a few things about the speed that we choose to move in. And also, I think people see and understand about the premise in the way we do our work. We as an administration, we are going to reject this false choice that says the transition to clean energy is either going to be effective or equitable. It's going to be both. And it's the only way we're going to be able to accomplish the goals that we're setting forward. The climate crisis is a threat. It is real. We no longer need any reminders. But it also represents a generational opportunity to create jobs, to create pathways to work, wages, and wealth, and to grow an economy that is going to leave no one behind. And that's going to need everybody to get it done. And so I'm thankful to turn the microphone over to not only my true and great partner inside this work, but also someone who consistently fights for the people of this state in a way that is not just inspiring, but in a way that makes us better every single day. We are blessed to have Ben Cardin as a senior senator for the state of Maryland, and I'm honored to turn the microphone over to him today. Senator Cardin.
Governor Moore, it's always a pleasure to be with you, and you inspire all of us, and congratulations on an incredible first year. You have really put Maryland first. You have shown through leadership, working together, that everyone can benefit in all parts of our state and an inspiration to other parts of our country. So congratulations on a job just so well done. To Secretary Truttenberg and Gabe, first of all, I was going to say thank you for your good judgment in recognizing all those projects. In Maryland, you did the right thing, which is true. But I really must first comment. It is so encouraging to have a president that understands our responsibilities on the environment and also understands the opportunities to modernize America from the point of view of what we need to be competitive and good jobs, our responsibilities to our environment, our responsibilities to future generations. So thank you to the Biden administration for providing the leadership that we can have this type of announcement today that really does affect our future and our children's future. But we're not surprised by this. The bipartisan infrastructure bill that you talked about, now think about this. This is bipartisan, required the president's leadership, and you've heard some of the language in Washington in regards to climate change from our Republican colleagues. Look at the bipartisan infrastructure package because it was a major commitment to our responsibilities on our environment. We got that through President Biden's leadership. And it's great to have a president that we can work with on these issues. And America is leading on this. I recently got back from Dubai for the COP28 meetings on the climate from the world community. America was leading leading by our words and our actions. The Inflation Reduction Act, what an incredible accomplishment for our environment. But we need clean energy. We cannot achieve what we need to deal globally if we don't change the way that we use energy, produce energy, and how we deal with transportation. It is absolutely essential. And we took the first steps to that internationally in Dubai through the Biden administration's leadership. This is big news. This is our incredible obligations that we have. And we're leading in this nation thanks to the Biden administration. But there's one state that's leading all the other states, and that's the state of Maryland. Governor Moore, your leadership, Secretary Wiedenfeld, what you've been able to put together in our state, that commitment you made is huge. And quite frankly, we're going to watch other states to see if they can match Maryland, because we know we're all in this together. But we're showing that by doing this, we're creating good jobs, healthier communities, safer ways of transportation, safer supply chains, all of the above, which is showing that by doing this, yes, we're doing it because it's the right thing to do for our future, for our responsibilities globally and for our environment, etc. But it's also the right thing to do for our economy and our economic future and for jobs in the future. And that's what Maryland is all about. And to Mayor Scott, it's great to have a mayor that also puts these priorities first. We have the stars aligned between the city, the state, and the nation. And what you've done in Baltimore, you've shown by the way that you are implementing these policies to make sure that Baltimore is the leader on this. And it's not as easy as a mayor sometimes, Mr. Governor. I mean, he doesn't have all the, he has a little bit more narrow of opportunities and resources, but he working with a governor that cares about our city and a president that cares about our cities, we're making that type of progress. So I am particularly proud of this announcement. And to Dr. Jenkins at Coppin, it's good to have an academic center that understands that your responsibility goes well beyond the students that are on this campus, but goes to your responsibilities to help build a stronger community, which you're doing here in West Baltimore, which you're doing here in our community, and with this project here. And it's not by accident, as the governor said, that we chose Coppin, because we know Coppin has that sensitivity. But the law that we passed requires that we focus on traditionally underserved communities. And we have a president that's implementing those policies, a governor that's implementing these policies, a mayor that's implementing those policies. And we are making a huge difference as a result of all these activities. So I just really want to tell you, we talk often about teamwork. And I know the governor always mentions this, and it comes from his experiences in the military and how you have to work together as a team. But it's real, people. It's real. If you really work together as a team, you can get an awful lot accomplished. As Dr. Martin Luther King, his birthday, said each of us can make a difference in this world, but when we work together, we can bring about change. And that's exactly what we've done. And my partner in all this is Senator Chris Van Hollen. And I want to tell you something. What we do is kind of unique. We work together. We do something else that's kind of unique. We share information so that we know the needs of our state and our community, and we figure out a way that we can leverage and get more in order to accomplish the challenges that are out there, to deal with the challenges that are out there. I serve on the Authorizing Committee on Transportation. Senator Van Hollen's on the Appropriations Committee. We work very closely with Congressman Mfume, our dear friend who shares the same commitment to work together as a team, Team Maryland. And Governor, we appreciate you always mentioning how our delegation works closely with you. It's the leadership that you give us that by doing that, we're going to be able to use our talent the best that we possibly can. Life is short. We all want to do as much as we possibly can. You've given that opportunity, and having a partner in the United States Senate of Chris Van Hollen has given me that opportunity. So I'm proud to present to you Senator Chris Van Hollen.
thank you to our friend Ben, and I am going to come back to Senator Cardin in a moment. First of all, President Jenkins, great to be back in Eagle Country and at Coppin State University. Thank you all for your leadership here. To our mayor, congratulations again on your recent addition to your family, but thank you for your great leadership here in the city of Baltimore. The city that is home to our great governor. I know he loves all of Maryland equally, but Baltimore is first among those equals. Governor Moore, thank you so much for your leadership, not just today, but since you hit the ground running. Congratulations on the first session of General Assembly you had a year ago, and thanks for getting off to a great start here, and for your commitments to Maryland doing its part in our national and global fight to address the climate crisis. We're grateful for your efforts. We're grateful for your setting an ambitious goal and a plan to get to net zero by 2045. So thank you for all of that. And the Clean Energy Center and Catherine Magruder play a really important role in that effort, as you know. So I do want to thank Kathy and your team as you do that. And you're working with members of the governor's administration, like Secretary Wiedefeld and others in the way forward. Wonderful to have our executive branch federal partners here. To Polly Trottenberg, Deputy Secretary, thank you. Thank you for your remarks. Thank you for being accessible and reachable when we need you here in Maryland and your work around the country on behalf of the president. Really grateful to you and to Gabe Klein and others who are here. And speaking of federal partners, I do just want to say a special word of thanks and appreciation to my partner in the United States Senate, our friend Ben. He's very modest. Senator Cardin is a leader in many areas within the United States Senate, but he is also a key member of the Environment and Public Works Committee, and the Infrastructure Modernization Bill came out of that committee. It was a multi-part effort, but a lot of the key provisions came out of that committee, and he was the head of the subcommittee on infrastructure and public works during that critical time. So he's been there for Maryland, he's been there for Baltimore. Thank you to our friend Ben and my friend Ben Cardin, please. Thank you. And he is, as you know, going to be retiring, but he is running fast across the finish line, and we're going to make sure we recruit him back. So as the governor mentioned, I think we all came from an earlier event this morning, $80 million to help address a lot of the bottlenecks in the Baltimore tunnel. 26 million vehicles go through the Baltimore tunnel every year on this Northeast corridor. It is a huge national node in transportation. And our goal in the country and here in Maryland is to make sure all 26 million of those vehicles ultimately are electric vehicles, clean vehicles. That's not just true of every vehicle going up and down the Northeast corridor, but here in Baltimore City and in the state of Maryland and around the country. And that was a critical part of the infrastructure modernization bill. And this $15 million announcement here is going to help Maryland move in that direction, just as the other announcements you're making nationally are part of that plan to move the country forward when it comes to EVs. Because we all know that when people are thinking about buying an electric vehicle, the first thing they do is get out, their maps and get online and try to figure out where all the charging stations are. And if you don't have charging stations and people don't think they're going to be able to get where they want to go in a fast and efficient way, they're not going to purchase that vehicle. So this is an integral part of making sure that we move forward to achieve our goals. This is, of course, a critical part of the climate strategy. And we know the world is getting hotter and hotter every year. Mother Earth is screaming out. But it's not just to make sure that we address the climate crisis. That is fundamental to this. And doing nothing is not an option. But what we're showing here and what the Biden administration and all of us are showing is that it's not just a question of addressing the risks of climate change. Along with the risks come a great opportunity for all of us to invest in a new clean energy and clean economy and put people to work and do it in an equitable way. And these were very intentionally written in to that legislation, all these components. And I just want to thank everybody who's part of making that happen, including our friends and colleagues in the private sector and our friends in labor. This is going to help bring about, as the governor said, 600 certified electricians, IBAW. A big part of the infrastructure bill was to make sure that we reach out with organized labor to help make sure we secure good paying jobs. People can build more wealth to pass on to the next generation. So whether it's the climate crisis, whether it's building more generational wealth, whether it's making sure that we address the other issues. By the way, it'll cost you less in the long run. You no longer have to pump gas, but plug in. So all of these things are very, very important. And it's part of an overall strategy. It was also here at Coppin where the Vice President of the United States announced back in July a big part of the Inflation Reduction Act that we passed, which is to establish what I call a federal green bank. It's a greenhouse gas reduction fund. It's going to be about $20 billion. EPA will in March announce some of the important folks who are going to be implementing that program. But whether it's the Inflation Reduction Act or the infrastructure bill, these are transformational investments that require leadership. And I will close with this observation, because Senator Cardin and I and all of you sort of lived through this. During the previous presidential administration, there was a running joke in Washington that this week is Infrastructure Week. For those of you who follow these issues, you know why. It's because every week the previous administration would say, this is the week we're going to pass the big, big infrastructure bill for the United States of America. Well, it never happened on their watch. But when President Biden was elected and working with a Congress on a bipartisan basis, we actually passed a transformational infrastructure bill that includes these very important components. So now, when we say this week is Infrastructure Week, it's because we're doing things like this and delivering on that promise. So thank you all for being part of that. And let me now bring up the great mayor of Baltimore City and Charm's dad, Mayor Brandon Scott.
Everybody, we have to give Senator Van Hollen a special round of applause today. He just celebrated a birthday the other day. Happy birthday again, Mr. Senator. And good morning, everyone. And it's so great to be here with you all. And I'm going to start where Senator Van Hollen left off by thanking my president, our president, Joe Biden, and his entire administration for their leadership. I think it's important for us to note that through all the noise, and we know how loud the noise has been, he has delivered for us things that have been talked about for decades and never came to fruition. Infrastructure, climate change, gun violence, student loan crisis, all of them, this president has delivered on them and continues to do so despite the noise, despite folks who, unfortunately, our wonderful senators have to work with every day who don't think that climate change is real. That is a huge accomplishment, and I think that the residents in Baltimore and throughout Maryland, Mr. Governor, are extremely grateful to President Biden for his leadership, for his vision, but also for sticking to doing the tough work, even when you know it's not going to be very easy, and even when you know it's going to hurt you politically to do the right thing, as we always should do. I also want to thank, and in lifting that up, our fabulous Deputy Secretary, welcoming her back to Baltimore. Ma'am, you know we'll welcome you anytime you want to come. You keep coming. Deputy Secretary Trottenberg, and all of the team at the Federal Department of Transportation, of course, led by my dear friend, Mayor Secretary Pete Buttigieg, as we call him in the U.S. Conference of Mayors, because if you want an agency to run the right way, you put a mayor in charge of it, and that's what's going to happen. Thank you for your leadership, for your partnership with our city, with our state, and of course, as the governor has already noted, to the best congressional delegation in the United States Congress. Thank you to both of them, led by the best senators in the United States Congress. Thank you, Senator Cardin. You're not gone yet, sir. We're going to keep you as long as we possibly can. We know you have the TikTok on your desk, but we're not, and I'm pretty sure, Dr. Jenkins, you can be looking for some volunteer work. We will hook you right up. And of course, Senator Van Hollen, who we won't be losing anytime soon. We're going to continue to have you, and thank you both for your leadership. Governor Moore, you are almost at that 1 year mark. Consider yourself blessed that it didn't have to happen during COVID, because it felt like 3 years. But thank you. Thank you for coming into office and recognizing that Baltimore City is the driving force for the state of Maryland, that we are now seen and heard, that we don't have to wait 8 months to get meetings, that I can pick up the phone and you'll actually call me back. Small things matter when you're talking about working together to build a better Maryland, which you know, and we all know, as you say, won't happen until we're building a better Baltimore. And I just want to say also to Kathy and the Maryland Clean Energy Center for bringing us together through the Maryland Equitable Charging Infrastructure Program, in which the city of Baltimore is proud to be a partner of. This morning, we are here just a few days after another storm that caused flooding across our city. And right now, our crews are handing out sandbags in January, because we're expecting another storm tonight and then winter weather next week. It should be clear to everyone that the climate change is real, and this crisis is having a very real impact on our lives right now. And our city, just like cities across the country, are going to have to confront that climate change and build our resiliencies in ways both large and small, to make sure that everyone is doing their part to make the world more resilient and better for the generations coming behind. Something as small as the mayor doing all of his documents on virtual and not being in paper will mean many, many things in the near future. We all know that access to electric vehicles and by extension, these chargers is critical for us to meet our collective climate goals. And that reason should be good enough. But this announcement is also about improving the quality of life in our neighborhoods and overcoming decades of environmental justice, especially, Dr. Jenkins, in neighborhoods like West Baltimore. Coppin State, which I didn't graduate from Coppin, but it has a very near dear place in my heart, because after graduating from college, I cut my teeth in organizing and working right here on this campus. A beautiful open campus, and we are excited to make their charges available to the public, in addition to the many, many more to come across the city. These charges will add to the over 150 currently on city property that have already helped support access to public charging, with many, many more to come. EVs are a major stepping stone in working towards making Baltimore a cleaner city for all residents and visitors to experience. As if you didn't know, the New York Times ranked Baltimore as the 14th place that you have to visit in 2024. So make sure that you come in here. If you need a guide to how to do that, visit baltimore.com. We'll make sure we get that information out for everyone. And at City Hall, we're going to continue to lead the charge. In December, I signed into law an ordinance to require 100% of the city's light-duty administrative fleet to be zero emissions by 2030. And that transition has already started with our vehicles. And while we have still much work to do in installing our own fleet infrastructure, I'm thrilled with the progress that we made thus far. Just a few weeks ago, we debuted our first shipment of our electric vehicles in the only way that the mayor would, by driving them myself. Because we have to be leading the charge on this each and every day. And in all seriousness, making our city resilient isn't just about the physical infrastructure. We need to make sure our residents are ready for these big changes too. I want to applaud the fact that Maryland Equitable Charging Infrastructure Program is also focusing on job training. Baltimore Electrical JETC is a great partner, a union apprentices and journeypersons on how to install and maintain this infrastructure in our city. Because we have seen time and time and time again, when industries pop up, the folks who live in these neighborhoods where that work is coming, where that infrastructure is being built, have been shut out from building it in their own neighborhoods. And we are so helpful and grateful that this is no longer happening. Maryland Equitable Charging Infrastructure Program took significant cooperation to make it this far, and the work is only beginning in that partnership. I'm looking forward to seeing the charges here and around the region, to our residents helping to build it, so that we are not only telling them that we have to be more resilient, telling them that we have to take care of our environment, but allowing them to be a part of that process from the ground up. Congratulations, everyone, on the programs and the job that we all have done thus far. Baltimore and Maryland and this country's future is going to look even brighter because of that work, and I look forward to continuing with you all. And now I have the distinct honor of introducing the gentleman who may be the only person in Baltimore that can rival me in wearing blue and gold every day. The fabulous leader of this great institution, who is doing so much work, not just for his students, not just for the students at Coppin State, but for the students at Coppin Academy, which is a high school that Coppin State hosts here for the city of Baltimore and public schools right here on this campus. I always joke with Dr. Jenkins that for about a month out of the year, Coppin State is my office. They also host all of the high school graduations here, and he has done a fabulous job to help to make sure that everyone knows that West Baltimore's University isn't just a place for folks to come and go to school. They're going to be involved in their community, and it's open to everyone. Dr. Anthony Jenkins, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me say hello and good morning to everyone. Mr. Mayor, I'm not quite there on the technology yet. I still had to cut down probably a bush, not an entire tree. But my team jokes me all the time because I still use a BlackBerry. And y'all found that real funny. But no, it is great to have you all here. Let me start by just saying I had the opportunity, Kathy, for you and I to talk earlier, and congratulations on everything that you all are doing and the grant and the leadership that you are showing to our state. But I also want to take an opportunity to thank my team, Stephanie, Anne Marie, and Aaron. Thank you all very much. They are really the brains behind the operation. They got all of this stuff set up and done and so forth. And so I always want to make sure that I pay respect to those who really do the work. To our national delegation, thank you all. I know that everyone has said thank you before, and I truly mean it. Both of you all, since I've arrived, you have been great partners of Coppin State University, and I greatly appreciate your leadership and your friendship and all the work that you're doing on behalf of not just the great state of Maryland and for higher education, but specifically for Coppin State University. So thank you very much. Thank you. And Madam Deputy Secretary, welcome. All right, and thank you for all that you are doing and that you're going to continue to do over the next several years as we continue to move our nation forward. And obviously, it's always great to have our alumni back on campus. So, Governor, it's good to see you. All right, good to see you. Now, I'll say this, 'cause I'm gonna put this plug in real quick. Now, on this campus, I have had the opportunity to have two of the greatest senators in the entire nation. The Deputy Secretary has visited campus. The Vice President of the United States has visited campus. The greatest governor in the nation is here every other week. There's one person I haven't had, and I'm gonna ask you all to help me get the President of the United States here on this campus, okay? But to all of our dignitaries and guests who are with us, thank you and welcome. For those who this is your first time here at Coppin State University, I do hope you get the opportunity on this beautiful day to see some more of our beautiful campus outside of this beautiful Center for Technology. And I also want to thank the Biden administration for their commitment and their leadership and their belief in understanding that if we do work together, there's nothing that we cannot accomplish. And believing in agencies and entities and individuals to make that change occur. And so I am honored and proud that Coppin State University will be the recipient of these EV charging stations. And I think that it is going to make a tremendous difference in meeting the needs of communities, Governor, as you and others have often said, have been left behind. And Madam Deputy Secretary, as you noted, having these EV charging stations in places where we live and where we work and where we learn, making them accessible is extremely important. And the job opportunities that this grant and this work is going to create is equally as important. You know, today's announcement is progress in motion. This collaboration will fill the gaps in our nation's charging and alternative fueling network and investing in diverse communities like West Baltimore. When I arrived here at the university, we talked about how we were going to transform Coppin. And I cannot think of a better institution and a better place to have these EV charging stations than West Baltimore and Coppin State University. Y'all can clap for that. When I arrived here at Coppin, I talked about how our university would be a national model, how we would be an example as a clean energy university. Behind me, you see our new logo and our slogan that talks about Be More. We're embracing Baltimore. We're not running from anything in Baltimore because we know and believe that we have a responsibility to help transform Baltimore, West Baltimore. We are Baltimore's partnership university. We are partnering with anyone who wants to make a difference, anyone who wants to be more for Baltimore and the residents that make up this great city. That is our commitment. And so we are always working to be the example. Whether we are extending the opportunities of our community health center because we are the only university in the state outside of our medical institutions that has opened its university health center to the surrounding community. Because in many cases, we are the only opportunity for them to receive firsthand care. Whether we are working with Baltimore City Schools and hosting Coppin Academy on our campus to ensure that some of these great jobs that are going to be presented out of this venture, that our students who are graduating from Coppin Academy at a 92% graduation rate, that they have the opportunity, that if they do not want to go into a four-year institution, that they have the opportunity to go immediately into the workforce and start building a life for themselves and earning income. So we are committed to those things. So let me briefly just say how we are committed to being a clean energy university. We are committed to reducing our carbon footprint. Our new College of Business, which sits right across the street, has been recognized for exceeding or meeting lead industry standards. And the vice president, as Senator Van Hollen noted, was on our campus several months ago, and the EPA director, Michael, was also here and talked about the great work that Coppin is doing as we look at how we lower our footprint around carbon emissions. And we're reducing our CO2 emissions here on campus, and we are excited about that. We are adding EVs to our motor fleet, And through our Center for Nanotechnology, we are conducting research and focusing on climate change and how it impacts urban communities and people of color, from health disparities to so much more. Coppin is thrilled to be a part of this venture. And we know that the EVs that will strategically be on our campus will help add to the overall mission and purpose that we have about making sure that access, reliability, and sustainability are a part of who we are and what we do as an institution. I said in 2004, when I got here, I said back in 2004 when Coppin transitioned from Coppin College to Coppin State University. That transition was important because colleges are usually designed to serve. Universities are designed to serve and solve. And so Coppin will be serving our community and helping to solve the challenges that it faces. So again, I want to welcome you to Baltimore's hometown university, Coppin State University, the beautiful campus in West Baltimore. And it is my honor now to turn the podium over to Maryland's Department of Transportation Secretary, Mr. Paul Whittefield.
Thank you, President Jenkins, and particularly for everything you're doing in West Baltimore. As a graduate of Mount St. Joseph High School in West Baltimore, I spent a good bit of time in the west side of Baltimore, and it's so important what you're doing, so thank you. Governor, again, thank you for your leadership in pushing rapidly to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the state of Maryland, and everything that you and your entire team is doing in that area. To our federal partners, it really is unbelievable, what you all have accomplished for the state of Maryland and for Baltimore City. You and I have been together at many events, in particularly West Baltimore, and some of the federal dollars that both of you brought to us, and so thank you again for that. And then obviously Deputy Secretary Trottenberg and our partners at USDOT, we couldn't do without you. And we're honored to have you with us in Baltimore, and it's an example of how our teams work together, so thank you for coming up. With this CFI grant, perfectly complements our efforts at the department with our National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Plan, which is basically to put charging stations along highways and byways of the state of Maryland. And we'll be making some more news in that next week, which is really good. So with this grant, basically there'll be chargers in communities to help fill gaps for those who are unable to power up at their apartments and their townhouses, some of the basic needs that need to be met. And as the saying goes, if you build it, they will come. So expanding our charging infrastructure is an important step in our efforts to make Maryland more comfortable in switching to EVs as well. We're already seeing it here in Maryland as the number of EV registrations have grown rapidly. In fact, our state is on track to reach 100,000 EV registrations in the next few months, with more than 10 times that number projected by the end of this decade. With reliable charging stations and more EVs on the roads, Maryland will be cleaner, greener, and healthier. I'm very brief, so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Francis Energy's CEO, David Jankowski.
This is just an incredible honor to be in front of such an illustrious group of people. Dr. Jenkins, thank you for inviting an Oklahoma Sooner to your campus. Really appreciate it. Just first and foremost, Director Klein, just thank you. It's been said many, many times, but thank you for your incredible leadership. Deputy Secretary Trottenberg, don't know if you remember, but we were in a cafe in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I told you Francis Energy is building charging stations, and here we are today. Governor Moore, met you, just an incredible brief minute at the DGA event in Los Angeles. I told you we were coming to Maryland to build charging stations. Here we are. Senators Cardin and Van Hollen, just really appreciate you being here. Lieutenant Governor Miller, Mayor Scott, it's a privilege to meet you. Secretary Wiedefeld, just looking forward to the NEVI release. Just really exciting what is going to be happening in Maryland very, very soon. Mr. Luivanos, welcome. Nice to meet you, and thanks for being part of this partnership. Obviously, want to thank Kathy, Amy, and the entire Maryland Clean Energy Center. Obviously, I'm not standing here without your leadership, so thank you so much. Obviously, need to thank the administration, Federal Highway Administration, and literally everybody for implementing the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Quite literally, without the dedication of everybody involved in this effort, truly the electrification of transportation doesn't happen in America. As the founder of an Oklahoma-based company, I'm just grateful to have joined with so many passionate public and private allies, which together make up this Maryland Equitable Charging Infrastructure Partnership. Thank you so much for allowing Francis Energy to join. We look forward to working together. Really building a nationwide network of charging stations is really a team effort. Really made possible only through really radical collaboration. And that's really the theme, I think, that we've been hearing today. In 2019, Francis Energy, our company, we built out the nation's first comprehensive statewide network of fast chargers. And we did them every 50 miles on interstate highways, but importantly, local communities, small towns, disadvantaged areas, tribal properties. We did it to prove concept. We did it to show that you can build a network in rural America and disadvantaged communities, and when you build them, they will come. Exciting news, Director Klein, I hadn't heard about the 1.7 million added this year. I think that is total validation to if you build it, they will come. Over the last 6 months, we've been very fortunate to have participated in NEVI across multiple states. So far, and this is just the very beginning, Francis Energy has been awarded 32 NEVI sites across 7 states. And unfortunately, we were not the first in Ohio, but proud to say we're the second. In Pennsylvania, we continue to build. Those should be completed rather quickly. And we just look forward to Maryland opening up and allowing us to come in and help transform electricity and the transformation here in Maryland. So fast forward today, more than 5 years after our work began, when Maryland becomes another critical state in which we continue the vital work. It is important not just because we are working to solve range anxiety, promote a cleaner environment, and create the high-paying U.S. jobs of the future, but it's also because it's important of how we are trying to do it. We're not just focused on urban areas. That is where the focus has been to date. We are focused on building this critical infrastructure in disadvantaged and rural communities coming from Oklahoma, heartland of America. Rural communities are vital, and we know that. However, we know it's just the beginning. We know there's a lot of hard work ahead of us, but we know with everyone's effort, we are going to build a reliable, equitable, sustainable, affordable charging network here in the great state of Maryland. Again, thank you so much for inviting Francis Energy here. I'm truly honored. And now let me turn it over to Mr. Louvianos.
All right, I've got technology. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, again for being here. I want to thank our leaders again for your leadership in making this happen. But I also want to thank my team and all the teams out there for all the organizations that made this happen. I think because of them we're here, and because of them we're going to succeed. So I want to thank you all out there as well. I want to also thank you for the opportunity to speak and share my thoughts on the impact the CFI grant will have in Maryland and our role at Citizen Energy and Avanza EV. This is a very unique funding program because it specifically helps us to reach our underserved low-income communities, as Governor Moore mentioned earlier, that have not been included in the EV transition. I want to say that again. They have not been included in the EV transition, but we're going to change that. Studies show, and many of you know this, that our communities carry the heaviest pollution, health, and economic burden from tailpipe emissions and gasoline-powered vehicles. So our communities stand to benefit the most from creative solutions like the CFI grant program. Through this grant, we will be deploying level 2 chargers at 34 multifamily housing sites. As many of you know, there are very particular barriers to adoption in multifamily housing, right? So this deployment will help overcome those barriers and establish a foundation to give overnight charging access to close to 10,000 multifamily households here in the state of Maryland. Thank you. I also want to particularly highlight our Avanza EV bilingual education program, which is a critical component of this grant and all the work that we do here in the state of Maryland. In collaboration with our community partners, whether it's an EV Ride and Drive Soccer Fan Fest or an EV 101 workshop, we are generating demand and we are increasing interest in EVs. We know that it's very important to properly introduce this new EV technology to our communities in their language of choice and help them work through the options that are best for their particular economic and lifestyle needs. Very important to tailor the solutions to the community and their needs. We've made a lot of changes. As a social enterprise, we're serving as a consumer advocate by organizing things like EV purchasing co-ops to get group discounts from dealerships and helping these dealerships better serve our communities. For example, we are pushing these leaderships to register with the IRS so our EV buyers can transfer the tax credit and use it as a down payment. This is absolutely critical because our communities may not otherwise be able to purchase an EV unless that takes place. So we're very excited about that particular policy. I want to reemphasize that that's the way that our communities will be able to finance their EV purchases. Our work also includes immigrant communities. My parents are immigrants, and that is something that's very close to my heart. Immigrants come to this country to not only give their families a better life, but also to make this country better. And we know for a fact that they also want to do their part in mitigating climate change and cleaning up our air. We're also making sure that households get some relief in their bank account and save as they transition to an EV. In addition to the maintenance and gasoline savings that they will get from EV ownership, this grant will also help us provide up to 50% in charging session discounts to anyone who uses our chargers here in the state of Maryland. To close, I'd like to reemphasize that this grant is a significant down payment on accelerating EV adoption in communities that need it most in the state of Maryland. We are excited to get to work with all your help. Pa'lante. Thank you.
Gracias, Edwin. I'm not going to thank anybody else. I am going to acknowledge, if you don't mind, the incredible team at the Department of Transportation Federal Highway Administration that helped put this event together, as well as the hardworking staff at MCEC, Sabrina Bachman, Pam, Mary, and particularly Mary Gillespie, who is our Grant Administration and Compliance Officer, who hit this home run for Maryland. Thank you. I want to say to everybody who's here, thanks for joining us. We want to flock together and ride or drive an EV. We're going to stick around for a little bit and have some questions, acknowledge the press that's here today, and invite some speakers to take questions from the podium. Katie's going to manage that. Governor, thank you for being here. Madam Deputy Secretary, thank you. Gabe, Mr. Jenkins, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Secretary, thank you so much. All right, we're out.